Hey everybody, welcome back to another Flea Market Finds video, and this is a continuation of the stuff that I picked at the 2023 Summer Brimfield Antique Show. This is the second day that I went back. This would have been July 12th. Just a quick word about this video you're about to see. This is not a re-upload or a repeat or whatever you want to call it. I'm just way behind on editing. And one of the first buys of the day was this interesting little knife straight edge. It looks just like a Brown & Sharp straight edge, but it's marked on the side here, Germany, I believe. So it's marked J. Gottlieb Piesler? I'm not sure how you say that. So I've never seen one of these before, other than, like I said, the Brown & Sharp ones. So I thought it was pretty neat, and this certainly appears to be the original case that was with it. So I got this for $15. Also for $15, I got this Ohmite Little Devils resistor organizer. I've had a few of these in the past. The labels are damaged and coming off, unfortunately. But the drawers are all intact. Sometimes these handles break off. And it is loaded with a bunch of old resistors. Now, what's nice is these old Allen Bradley style resistors like this with the square shoulder on them, they usually are electrically perfectly fine. And sometimes when you're doing restoration work, it's nice to be able to use the older style looking parts. And it looks like there's a lot of used stuff jammed in here too, or looks like there's some resistors that were put together in parallel or series to make up for, like right there, there's two in parallel, two 11K ohm resistors in parallel, so those are split in half. I picked up another one of these vacuum base vise. These are the type of vise that you're supposed to be able to stick down to a flat surface and flip this lever and it'll suction down. But, it's got holes in it. So somebody drilled holes in it so they could screw this down. Probably this had stopped being reliable. I've got a few of these that either the rubber's completely missing or they just don't work anymore. But they're still very handy because you can just slap them down on the table. And like if you just got a small part you want to hold to like maybe solder a wire on or something like that, they work fine for that. This has got a little protective soft jaws on it, and then it's got this nice swivel feature. So I got that for $5. I thought, well, that's worth it. Sure, what the heck, even though I have a few of these now. And then I found this lady who had these 3 boxes. She didn't really have any machinist items, but I found these 3 boxes she had, and they intrigued me, and then I quickly realized what they were. So these say Einpress Lager friction bushes, and then this is in German over here, I think. Ergänzungssortiment supplementary set. So okay, so Einpress Lager must be German for friction bushes, and Ergänzungssortiment must be supplementary set. That's just a complete guess. And then there's a chart here explaining the different dimensions or whatever. So whichever one of these little compartments you want to open, you move your thing over here. And what's inside here are just a whole bunch of these tiny brass bushings. So just to give you an idea, I can't get my pinky very far into one of these holes, and you can see how many of them fit in down inside here. Like that one there is chock full, right? Then there was also this set. This is the initial set, and again, quite a few of these tiny little brass bushings inside there, right? And then there's also this box with them. This box says made in Switzerland, Bergeon. Bergeon by the looks of it. Fabrication Swiss. So maybe that wasn't German, maybe it's Swiss, but inside here, it's another assortment. And this is the Bergeron number 30089. So these little containers actually have a bunch of, again, these little tiny brass bushings. So I wasn't sure what these were for until I got to this last box, and I noticed that right here it actually says assortment of 750 hard brass bushings for alarm clocks and regulators. So I gave $40 for these 3 boxes, and I'm hoping I did okay, and I'll be able to make a little bit of money on them. We'll see. Oh, well, looks like I did pretty well there. Here's a auction completed on eBay. This guy had the 2 sets that I have, and then he had a, which oddly enough are, it's funny, KWM are the brand of these, and the Bergeron is the other set. He had the 2 KWMs, and then he had a different Bergeron set, and he put the 3 of them together as one lot. There was 7 bids, and it went to $102.50 plus $9 shipping. So not bad at all, especially considering when I look at the photos, I notice that this one on the bottom here that he has very little left in it. These are all empty. That's all that's in that 3rd box is those. So apparently it's not something you see every day, because that was back in December. I'm not going to deal with this box of stuff right here. Normally I don't even bother asking about our Atari 2600s, because it seems like they're always asking too much money for them. But this one here had some issues, so I was able to get this for $10, and he threw in the rest of this box that it's in, which is a property U.S. Postal Service mail thing, and some other stuff in here. So what's in here is this Atari 2600, okay, which is making some noises. That's not supposed to. Also, this Intellivision 2. So this is the, after Intellivision came out, this must be the sequel to it, which I've never even seen one of these. Unfortunately, it's in really bad shape, and it's like got some serious things missing, like the 2 controllers that dock in here, the power supply. I mean, so this is just a parts machine, if that. 2 what looked to be genuine Atari 2600 joysticks, and the cable to go from the Atari 2600 console to the TV game switch box that you used to get with these. And here are the rubber parts for the joysticks, which is nice. And the rest of what's in this box just appears to be junk. They gave me this pocket welding guide, so keep that for myself. This old clock, made in USA, GE. I gotta see just for giggles whether or not this thing works. Of course it does. The second hand's moving. Why wouldn't it? Right? Boy, talk about vintage. Set the alarm and see if we can't get the alarm to go off. There it is. Oh. 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 Oh, the alarm's got a little... That's weird. The buzzer started to buzz, it then cut out. Huh. This is a model 7355-5. 3 of these have sold on eBay in the past 90 days. One sold for 10, one sold for 15, and one sold for 19. And the rest of the stuff here in the box is junk, although this is a label for, look at that, that's a label for a cartridge, game cartridge, Real Sports Football, Sub Hunt. Oh, I remember that game for the Atari 2600. RCA patch cable, and a little adapter. Adapter to go from 300 ohm twin lead television antenna wire to 75 ohm. Boy, those are pretty useless these days.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm really curious to see what is rattling around in there making that noise. Maybe it's just a piece of plastic standoff or something that broke. Oh, no, it's a switch. Huh. This is probably the switch to change from channel 3 to channel 4. Oh. There are 2 difficulty switches that have A or B settings, one for each controller. So I guess if you're playing against somebody who's really, really good and you want to give them a handicap, you can switch their difficulty setting without touching yours. No, this isn't just a plastic piece now that I look at it. This is like the whole switch assembly has broken apart. So where's the metal that goes in here? This switch is so incredibly basic. It's just there's a metal strip with a couple of notches in it that's separated electrically so that the center tab is isolated from the 2 outside metal tabs. And then inside here, originally what would have been here that fell out is a little metal piece in here that when slid to the right or to the left would short the center tab to either the left or right. Pretty basic. Got a couple of metal tabs that I bent back so I can put this back on. I'm just going to put this back together. It's not going to work because that metal piece is missing. My main concern was if that little metal tab had fallen out and was just kind of kicking around in here somewhere, it could be shorting out something on the board. This switch is available online for about $6. The other thing I could do is I could just jump her out. Could literally solder the two sides together and just have it default to always in A or B. I'm curious whether or not if it's not selected A or B, whether or not it will actually work. It might. Of course, there could be something else wrong with it. There's a sticker right here, probably for inspection purposes, that has the build date on it. March 6, 1982. So I mechanically put the switch back together. And then I looked at the back side of the board here and I noticed that there's the 3 connections on the switch. Only 2 of them appear to go anywhere. So it appears that the switch is in one position, it's just open, and the other switch, it closes this side. So that bad switch is just going to mean that that side's going to be stuck in difficulty B. I don't remember which is more difficult, A or B. Not that I care. I really just want to see if this thing works at all.
From the same lady that I got those clock bushings from, I ended up getting these 2 Plumb bobs for $5 for the pair. This one's marked USA 38401. And this is very similar looking, only just a larger version. So, another one of these little clamp-on vices for $5. Like the original red and green paint on it's kind of neat. Didn't see a maker on it though. And then I went back the following day, and I ended up not getting too much, but I did find one dealer who had several tools I was able to put together. A few items here. This is one of these cast metal drill indexes that I tend to like. It's missing, supposed to be a pin that goes in here to lock this. And then the idea is that when it's not being used, I guess, or whatever, you can fold it up like this. This particular one is in Ajax, and it's for number drills, which is kind of neat. I don't know if I've got one for number drills. I've got several of these. I kind of got into collecting these, but again, it just goes together like that, and then again, there's supposed to be a pin that goes in here. That's missing. So I paid $15 for that, and then I paid $30 for these 2 pieces, and he threw in this little double-ended pin vise. No name on that pin vise. Just thought it was kind of neat. But this is actually, these are a couple of nice little Starrett items. This is a Starrett centering tool. So this is missing a part. It would have had a long rod with points on each end that went through here. And this would be held in the tool post of your lathe. And it's a centering tool that would help you line up the tailstock with apart in the chuck. So this is a really nice looking one because it's got this case hardening on it that makes it really look interesting, and the chrome is in great shape. And I think I've said before, I've got so many of them I don't really buy these anymore, but this is a really sweet little surface gauge. This is the smallest one in the Starrett line. It's the number 56. There's a little bit of goop on here that feels sticky, so I bet you that's just going to come off with a little bit of solvent. Yeah, it's almost like a sticker residue that was on there. So you can see this has got the nice case hardening on it. It's in great shape. Engraved on the back here. Other than that, you can really see the, I don't know if the colors are coming through or not, but the case hardening really gives these things a really nice look. It's almost an iridescent look to it. Like gasoline dripped on the water. This little tiny screwdriver I had in the bag, I actually got this for free from a dealer the day before, and I kind of just forgot about it. I don't even remember who it was that gave it to me, but I remember just having the conversation, finding it after I had bought some stuff, and he says, oh, you could just have it. I just thought it was a really neat looking old screwdriver. The way the handle's made. Little two-piece wood handle riveted onto the shank. It's really tough to see, but I can just make out enough of the letters to tell that this said Germany on the shank. That's the only identification I can find on it. These final two items I ended up getting from the same guy, put together a package deal, and I got this and the last item I'll show you in a moment for $60. I figure I'm into this radio for like 15 or 20 bucks. And it's a Grundig field radio, model S450DLX. And you know, Grundig years ago was a high quality radio manufacturer back in like the 60s. And then at some point, I think they gave up the rights to their name to some company that started making these cheaper products. But some of these Grundig shortwave radios were kind of neat. Case in point, this one here actually has regular AM/FM bands, and then it has several shortwave bands, and it's got kind of a neat, you know, tuning jog shuttle type knob here, even though it's got a LCD readout. Of course, the angle on the readout, it's going to be just right for it to show up. So let's see if I can get that. It's backlit. I guess to save on battery life, it shuts the light off after a few seconds. So when you change stations, it comes back on again, and then it'll go back out. And then if you want it to come on while it's not, without changing the station, you just hit this light button on the top. It's got a snooze button. It's got an alarm. So you could set this thing to actually wake you up, I guess, or you can set it to maybe go off after, if you're listening late at night and you fall asleep and you want it to shut off. You know, so it's got a telescopic antenna. It's got, on the back, it's got a couple of jacks here. Looks like a speaker terminal, but it's not. According to this, it's the marine band antenna jack. And then this is the FM shortwave antenna jack. It's got this telescopic antenna built in. And then this is interesting. This is labeled AM/IF. So this must be tapping off of the IF amplifying section. So maybe that's to run to a scope. I'm not sure why you would want that. I'm not really up on exactly why you would want that. It runs off of either 6D size or flashlight size batteries, which I didn't have, so I'm just running it off of a universal adapter I have. Had to use the universal because this has the very annoying, it's 9 volt DC, which is no big deal, but it has the very annoying this has that very annoying situation where the center terminal is negative, so the outer part is positive, and most AC adapters that I run into are not that way. So, and you don't want to get the polarity wrong because you could damage the radio. Usually there's a diode in there across the circuit to protect it in case you inadvertently do that, but anyways, so
no matter what you say or how you feel, for many years I've had the phrase on the front of our website.
So you just get a lot of really weird stuff. You could really go down a rabbit hole and be lost for hours looking at some of this stuff, listening to some.
Ahí sea Pacheco, el puertorriqueño de los chips. Porque Pacheco no va a hacer nada en el juego.
Además de que solamente somos 50.
Pero con lo que yo no contaba, y por eso te doy todo el crédito.
Hasta el próximo mes de octubre. ¿Qué les parece si ahora nos vamos con el balompié fútbol soccer?
Well, some of you may recognize that as the Spanish Abbott and Costello. Alright, well, so enough of that noise. I'm satisfied that this radio seems to be working perfectly fine. It's got a 24-hour clock. I'm sure you can change the mode to a 12-hour clock. The only thing, this knob is a little loose, but it seems to work okay. This one's loose too, actually. Other than that, it seems to work fine. And this is the final item. This was included in that $60 I paid for the radio I just showed, which again, I figured if I'm into that radio for like 15 bucks, then I paid about 45 for this. And I just actually cleaned the outside of this because I didn't want to horrify my viewers. This thing was so moldy on the outside. This had to have been in a basement, unheated area or something. And it looked like heck. But I did notice the inside looked like it was much better. So can you guess what this is? It is a tube tester. And it is not just any old tube tester. This is a B&K Precision Dynaquick Model 500 tube tester. So I said B&K Precision, but this might even predate when the name became B&K Precision. It's just B&K. B&K Manufacturing, Chicago, Illinois, back in the day. Radio and television repair people may recall that B&K made a lot of good quality analyzers and equipment for servicing radio. And sometimes you find tube testers and they're, you know, off-brand names, or they're just kind of really basic testers and they're not that great. This one is a little bit better than others. For one thing, this one has the ability to test mutual conductance, which a lot of testers do not have the mutual conductance test. So what makes it so great that this tester has mutual conductance? Well, so not to get too bogged down with too much technical mumbo jumbo, but basically a basic tester is able to test for shorts and open in the cathode and the plate and basic emission of the cathode, where this tester and other testers that are able to do mutual conductance tests, they actually connect to the other elements in the tube, like the grids, and bias them so that the test that this tester does to a tube is more like the real life circuit that the tube is being used in, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you have an amplifier that uses two tubes in what's called a push-pull configuration, it's nice to have the two tubes matched very closely with the amount of mutual conductance they have. So if you have a tester like this, you could actually go through like a box of tubes and find two that are very closely matched to each other and put those into the amp as a matched pair. But whenever you look up one of these used tube testers, say like on eBay, you'll always find that any tester that has mutual conductance will sell for more money than a more basic tester. So a couple of these just recently sold on eBay, and they were listed as for parts only. In other words, untested or with issues. And one of them sold for $125, plus the shipping was another $25 on top of that. And another one sold for $90, and the shipping was $50. So just to give you an idea of what they're worth. So let me see if I can scrounge up a tube and see if this has any life left in it. I gotta say, I already like something about this tube tester that I haven't seen on other tube testers, which is instead of having a whole bunch of switches that you have to put in different positions to change the pin out of the sockets, what this company did is their design is to have more sockets and have those sockets all pinned for specific tubes. So for instance, this is a 12AT7 that I'm going to be testing, and there's a list right here that shows that one of the tubes that this socket's used for is the 12AT7. It's also up there on the chart. So like a lot of these testers that have to come with a booklet with quite a few different settings to make, this really just comes with this one chart in the lid that covers the majority of the tubes that you're going to want to test. So the only settings I really need to make is the heater voltage, which in this case it's 12 volts, or the filament I should say. And this sensitivity setting, which for the life test, or which is the emissions test, 37. Make sure this knob is on correctly. Yep. All right, so 37, and then for the mutual conductance test, it's 38. So now let's see what happens. So far, so good. So the meter deflection is negative, but that might just be because the tube is not conducting yet. Yeah. All right, so that's interesting. Well, wonder what's going on here. All right, I've now put a different 12AT7 in here, so same exact settings, just a different tube, and we're getting the same result. So I'd say there's something wrong with this tube tester. So I would expect that needle to be rising and going into good, and instead it's actually deflecting in the wrong direction. Well guys, I'm going to wrap up this flea market finds video right here. I'll probably feature this tube tester in an upcoming video where I diagnose and hopefully repair it. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing and sharing the video. Thanks for watching.